Hi everyone, my name is Anthony and I'm the Awesome Chef. Today I'm going to teach you how to make a few simple but delicious and incredibly awesome meals. One of those is a simple hamburger, but is a hamburger really simple? Well, we're going to show you how to make something simply awesome today, right here on the Awesome Chef. Today I'm going to show you how to prepare some minced beef and some chicken. We're going to take a whole chicken and I'm going to show you the proper way in order to quarter it up and get it ready to be prepared and seasoned and marinated. Also, with the minced beef, I'm going to show you how to prepare it for two separate dishes. One is a simple hamburger, simple yet awesome, and the other will be for some spaghetti. Now, my spaghetti marinara is a little different from the average one. It's a little spicy, it's a little tangy, but like you know, we do fusion dishes. So, stay tuned for the rest of the show and you're going to see how we do this. Thanks. The first thing I'm going to show you today is how to properly prep and quarter up your chicken to have it ready for seasoning and marination. So, we're going to go ahead and we're going to start. You take a whole chicken. You want to make sure that your chicken is loose. Your chicken should be relaxed. When your chicken is relaxed, it's a lot easier to actually cut it and you'll actually be able to maneuver your knife around it a little bit better. First thing, just cut the skin by the legs just to start loosening it. You can push the legs back if you want. It's up to you. Push it down to separate it from the joints, just really fast like that. The very next thing that you do, grab from here, take a sharp knife, just cut it straight down. You continue to bust it straight down the back here. Make sure right by where the bone is, you just separate that. You can then turn your chicken upside down with a sharp knife, of course. Take the skin. Now you have two halves. You have this piece, which is the bottom half, and then you have the top half with the breasts and the wings. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to take the lower half of the chicken and we're going to separate it into a few different pieces for convenience sake. First thing, you're going to want to find a joint where the leg is connecting to the thigh. Let's find that joint just to show you where it is, right here. As you find a joint, you'll notice that it separates from the rest of the chicken very, very easily, and there you go, you have a drumstick. Go around, find the joint. You'll get used to it so that you can find it pretty fast. Next, now this is a complicated area here, because some people just separate the thigh from the back, while others like a bigger piece by just busting it straight down the middle and keeping a bigger thigh, which is technically what people use more when they're selling in restaurants or food chains. It's there to actually make the chicken look bigger than it actually is. Alright, so we're going to go ahead, but now you can either choose to bust it from here. This is by pushing your knife in. You got to use a little bit of pressure there, but here's an easy way. Once you cut from this part, which is easy, flip it long ways, and then you can just split it down the center. That way you use less pressure and you involve yourself in a less dangerous circumstance. Now you see, we have a nice big thigh, with the exception of some fat that we actually don't need because this chicken isn't going to be used for barbecue. And when you know what you're doing, you're supposed to be able to cut a chicken into quarters without chopping. It is unnecessary to chop if you know what you're doing. A piece of fat and skin here, unnecessary. These can actually go toward making stock or broth later on. Not really stock, but broth. Nice big thigh area, thigh and back, of course. This can make a beautiful piece of fried chicken. just move this out of the way. Next, we're going to go ahead to the upper half, the upper torso of the chicken. You know, this is the area with the breast and the wings. First thing you want to do, separate the wings. Just like the legs, find the joints, cut it out. Very simple. Wing. Beautiful, isn't it? Do it to the next side. And as you see, I'm not chopping. Now, with the breast, you can also still choose to cut from here and pull off the whole back section. Or you can give your customer, if it's for restaurant use, a bigger piece basically by leaving the back on. My customers, when I cook in my restaurants, they like seeing bigger portions on their plate. So giving them this is not a problem. Now this is one area where you'll need to put a little bit of muscle in. But if you did want to bust a straight line, straight through here, you can start with a couple guided cuts. Do your best to hold your chicken properly. Or you can do it the way some do. Use another knife if you do want to chop. And give it a little chop in there just to break that back. Once you break that back now, just cut straight through the meat and the wishbone and everything else that's in there. And then it should come through nice and easy. So here you go. One beautiful breast quarter. The only thing that you need to do with this breast quarter, cut off all this extra fat and skin. Use that for broth, and you're not giving your customers any unnecessary fat in their food. Now this is actually a beautiful chicken breast. This would be perfect for baking, seasoning, and also barbecuing. Same here. Double check. People don't like their food looking bad, so ensure that any unsightly pieces that are hanging off, cut it down. Now this fat here on the chicken is not really necessary to take off because this fat actually melts away during the cooking process depending on what you're cooking. And it also adds flavor to the chicken, a natural flavor that you cannot get by adding seasonings or spices. We've already quartered our chicken. Our chicken looks pretty good. It's ready to go into storage. Now, I like to use some Ziploc bags to actually keep my meat fresh, right? Whether it's meat or greens or whatnot, they're pretty good to have and they're pretty handy. Our chicken's already cut, washed, and ready to store. So the next time I'll see this is when it's time for me to season it up and get it ready for cooking, which is very simple. And I suggest you do the same because proper preparation helps make your life easier. Now anytime I need to make a chicken dish, I have my chicken ready to rock and roll. Alright, so after these messages, when we get back, I'll teach you how to actually prepare your minced beef so that you can make some simply awesome hamburgers and also prepare yourself for another meal later on in the week, which will actually be your spaghetti, which is pretty cool. Alright, so we'll be back in a few minutes. Thanks. Hi, now that we're back, I'm about to show you how to make a proper hamburger. Actually, technically it's a simple hamburger, but I'm going to show you how to make it simply awesome with just a few simple ingredients: some salt, some black pepper, little parsley, some white pepper, and some cayenne pepper. Now, as you can see, we have a lot of beef here, right? And this is premium quality minced beef, but it's also regular mince, but it's based on where you get it from, right? And I choose actually the best butcher in town. And of course I can't cook all of this at one time. Even though I make some pretty big hamburgers, they're not going to be that big. They're only going to be about 4 to 5 ounces of meat, sometimes 6 if I want them real thick and juicy. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to start throwing my mince into this bowl here, and I'm going to season it using some very simple ingredients. First, take about a teaspoon of salt. You get a little bit more of a kick as the fat melts in the beef when it's cooking. We're going to use some parsley. I just like the way it looks, and it adds a slight difference in flavor to your food. That's about a tablespoon of parsley. We're going to add about a teaspoon of white pepper. Actually, no, you know what? Let's go a little bit more. About a teaspoon and a half. And now we're also going to add some cayenne pepper. Give it a little kick. And these are all dry ingredients. I'm not using any fresh ingredients in this. Actually, I put about a teaspoon and a half of cayenne too. Now, I'm going to mix this up, and then I'm going to separate it into two portions. One portion I'm going to use in my spaghetti, which is another episode. Make sure you catch that. When I'll probably be doing that episode tomorrow anyway, so stay tuned. And the other half I'm going to use for my hamburgers, and it's actually going to work out just fine. So I'm going to continue mixing this up. I want it to be evenly mixed. Remember, one of the reasons why we use regular mince and not special mince is because you do want a certain degree of fat in your hamburgers. That way when you make a patty, it can hold and it can stick. If you don't have enough fat, it'll just fall apart when you cook it, and that'll be a mess. That's not really a very nice hamburger at all. So, mix it up. And go ahead, throw a little bit more salt. Mix it in. I actually added about another teaspoon of salt. Sea salt, that is. Very coarse. And I'm going to add about a tablespoon, no, about 2 teaspoons of black pepper. Because it already has white pepper in it. If not, I would have added a tablespoon. If not, I would have added a tablespoon of black pepper. You don't need to mix it up too much. Now just make a simple little ball inside your bowl. Use your hand. Give it a little karate chop. Split it in half. Half of it will be used for our burgers, and the other half will be used in our spaghetti meal. Okay? So I'm going to take this half that I have for my spaghetti and do the same thing that I did with the chicken. Put it in one of these Ziploc bags. Squeeze all the air out of it. Some people don't know how to use Ziplocs, right? So this is probably the best way to teach you. Squeeze all the air out of it, and then it'll actually preserve it a lot better. That, with the salt that's already in it as far as the seasonings are, will act as a preservative and actually help keep it fresh for a longer period of time. So before we head over to our commercials, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to get these formed into patties. If you have a good average out anywhere from 4 to 5 ounces of meat. These burgers, I'm actually going to make them a little thicker. I'm going to go for about 6 ounces. I want a pretty juicy hamburger. Let's see if we can get 4 of them out of here instead of 3. So this is maybe about a 5-ounce ball here, and we're going to press this into a patty shortly. Do a little bit more. And just make a firm ball, because when you press it out, you want it to stay very firm and compact so that it cooks properly. Now, we have 4 what seems like even-sized balls. Ha ha ha. 4 what seems like even-sized balls, meatballs that is, which we're going to press out into our patties. Very simple. You can actually use your hand, right? Compress it very tight. Use a little muscle here. You want it to be tight. Then take it and start to generally flatten it out. Try to use your fingers and just keep it as round as possible, because you don't want an ugly looking burger. You actually want it to look pretty good. But then the little imperfections in your circles is actually what makes these burgers so awesome. is because you can tell they're homemade. These are not store-bought, and I guarantee they taste absolutely delicious. At this point here, if you would like, you can go ahead and you can add a little bit of garlic. Just push it right on top slightly and push it into your meat. You don't want too much. Just want little bits and pieces of your garlic, which is going to cook it and give it a very nice smell and taste. What you can also do, you're going to take a little ginger. Now I don't want to put ginger into it, and you're going to squeeze a little bit of the juice from the ginger onto your burger, and you're just going to rub it slightly in. Cool little technique. And it's not going to have it overpowering either. Right? So when you do something simple like that, just keep it, you can take it, put it in a little plate on the side, and then cook it, which is very simple. And we're going to show you how we cook it in a few moments too. Because we can actually cook this right indoors, in a frying pan, very quick, very easy, very effective. Alright, so when we get back, we're going to show you how we cook it and set up our burgers. Thanks, we'll be back in a few moments. Hi, we're back again. My name is Chef Anthony Snow, and I'm going to continue where I left off. As you can see, I molded each one of my mince balls into beef patties. Same patties we're going to use to cook our hamburger. Now, I have a beautiful stainless steel skillet here. Brand new too. Awesome for cooking certain things. Except for one thing. It's not awesome for cooking burgers, because it'll actually stick to the bottom and create a big mess, right? So don't ever sacrifice quality just because something looks a little nicer, right? I'll even shine it in the camera for you a little bit so you can see it, right? So don't sacrifice quality and basically a cooking process just because a pan looks nice, right? And in fact, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to use this simple, non-stick, very flat, very cheap skillet to cook my hamburgers. And I'm going to show you how it works. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, and you can go ahead and come and follow me one time too, right? So come on. Okay, so I've already lit the fire. I'm going to put my cheap non-stick skillet right here, and it's getting hot pretty fast. But the technique to cooking a good burger is actually lowering your fire. You cannot cook it faster than it should be cooked, because you want the fat in the beef to actually melt away and carry the flavor through the beef and keep it very nice and juicy. Now remember, your hamburgers generally have fat in them, which means they have oil in them. So you don't need to apply a whole bunch of oil to the surface. In fact, you can use a dry surface and very low heat, which will actually allow the burger to release its own oil. I'm going to put a few burgers here. So that they can all cook at once and cook evenly. And they will shrink, so do expect that. If you put them at about 6 inches in diameter, when they're done, they'll be about 5 inches. These burgers have to cook anywhere from 2 minutes and 45 seconds to 4 minutes on each side, depending on how you want your burger cooked. Either it's well done, medium well, so on and so on. Okay, Syrah, Syrah. Give it a little shake. It's a non-stick pan, shouldn't stick there. And we're going to keep you posted with what's going on here. Remember, keep your fire very low, keep your pan on top. I can lower it down a little bit too, because I have one of those industrial stoves. I know you might not have one at home, but just still remember, don't use excessively high heat, or you're going to dry out your meat and ruin your hamburger. Okay, I've already taken the liberty of flipping 2 of these burgers You can actually feel the meat by pressing on it to tell how cooked it actually is. The more firm it feels, the more well done it is. If it feels a little softer, it looks a little softer and takes some more pressing as you press down, then it's closer to being a rare burger. But I want my burgers medium to well. I find that when you cook beef medium to well, it gives you almost perfect results. Flip this over. As you can see, even though we use absolutely no oil, there's still oil that comes out of the beef on the pan. So do be careful when you're cooking mince and adding oil so that you don't actually put too much oil and raise your cholesterol. Now these burgers have been cooking for about 4 minutes, 4.5 minutes on one side. It's a little thick and our atmosphere is different. We're actually at a lower atmosphere, so things will cook slightly longer. But if we were at a higher altitude, definitely it would have cooked a little faster. But we're below sea level right now because we're actually in Guyana, cooking American food. Pretty cool. And within about another 2 to 2.5 or 3 minutes, this should be perfectly done. We can put it in our plate, let it drain a little bit so that we don't have so much fat or oil in our burger. It'll taste awesome, and we get to dress it up with the bread and the lettuce and all the usual suspects that you will see with your hamburgers. We're back, and as you can see, our burger patties are already fully cooked. Now I've decided to let them sit for about 5 minutes so that the juices can settle and you have a much better quality burger when you bite into it. I'm going to go ahead and show you how to start building your burger so that you have an awesome burger from the first bite to the very last. Check this out. You take a little mayonnaise, you spread it on the bottom, put a little bit more mayonnaise on the top, half of your bun, then you can actually start building your burger. Now there's a couple ways in which you can do this and make it very fun and enjoyable. I'll show you the way I like to do it. First, I put the meat. Now I want a cheeseburger, so I'm going to put my cheese on top of the beef because the beef is actually still slightly hot. Not going to overdo it either. Going to go ahead, put a couple pickles down, maybe 3. I want some fresh onion. So I've got some onion rings here. I'm going to put these fresh onions. Next, you can do it a few different ways. I like to go ahead and put a little bit of ketchup first on top of this. Notice I have my ketchup, my mustard, and my mayo ready to go. Spread it a little bit. Remember, this is a homemade burger. If you want it to be a little bit more restaurant-like, you can put it in one of those little squeezy bottles to help make it a little bit more convenient. I like a little bit more ketchup here. My burger spreaded with it. I also like a little bit of mustard. I use maybe about a half a teaspoon of actual mustard, of which I'm going to spread, but then I can't double dip this. Put this there. Go ahead. I'm going to put 2 slices of fresh tomatoes. Sprinkle a little celery. Little scallions. I'll go ahead and I'll put maybe 2 decent pieces of lettuce. Now this is a real hamburger. This will fill you, guaranteed. What we did here is we took a very simple dish like a hamburger and we turned it from simple to simply awesome. And as you can tell, this burger is huge and it's beautiful. This is a homemade restaurant quality burger that anyone can do right in their home. Just follow the recipe. So once again, I'm your host, Chef Anthony Snow, the Awesome Chef. And I'm here to help you make all of your meals simply awesome. Alright, so stay tuned for the next episode. We'll be dealing with our spaghetti and our mince, and I'm going to show you a really cool way to do this, and it's pretty cool, it's pretty unique, and it tastes really, really good. So thank you very much. Until next time, stay awesome. Bye.